Welcome to Alive on One, a miniature war games and hobby-centered podcast. I'm Nick Shaw, and with me today is Stephen Bork.
How's it going?
Good. And also, returning guest host, Brian Watson.
Hello.
I wasn't expecting you to respond, so that's like a little startling way to start the podcast.
There we go.
Cool.
So, I haven't played since the last time we recorded, but have either of you guys had any characters left alive on one?
Brian, why don't you start us off as the honorary guest?
Oh, sure. So what's interesting, because you did mention this is more just like a multi-miniatures game podcast, on this past Saturday, so a couple days ago, I actually played in a 40K tournament. And every time that I had a character or a vehicle that was alive on one, I would mention it, and I would like instinctually look around like, and then no one was paying attention, and everyone was just like, "What are you doing?"
We also appreciate the support.
I know. I was spiritually trying to help out. But yeah, so there was that a couple times, and I actually got an MCP game for Midgard's kind of practice league for a major shakeup that we're doing with our leagues for next year. So I played a game there, and I left a couple Asgardians alive on one. So that was a little unfortunate, but I mean, ultimately it was fine.
Yeah. And I've seen that league. I don't have time to personally join, even though I live pretty close, but it's cool what you're doing. So for those who don't know, and those for who are TOs and want to, what do you call that? Piggyback off some of Brian's really good ideas.
Please do so.
He sectioned all the players. Granted, Midgard has a big enough scene to do this. But you sectioned off all the players into like 3 tiers where you can move up and down as different seasons or leagues progress, right?
Yeah, because the one problem that we're having with growth was new people would come into a league, and our store's been running leagues for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Like pretty consistently. So we have a lot of very, very experienced players. So, new people would just get intimidated and either A, not sign up, or B, they would come in, get completely trounced, and then feel like, oh, I don't deserve, or whatever, to like play here. Or to like be on this level, and so they would kind of not, I don't know, like it, like just kind of, I don't want to say get disheartened, but it would just be a little like, okay.
I mean, it's definitely
really
discouraging.
like come back. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we would average like between like 10 and 15 people for our leagues, and once I announced, kind of opening it up because each of the different tiers, all the new people are going to get put in the quote unquote bottom tier. I don't really want to call it that. I call it the
inexperienced.
I call it the street level tier. And so once they heard that they're all just playing against each other, and the like winner of that league will move up into like the mid tier, and so on and so forth. We have 23 people for this league. Yeah. So it just doubled. So I think if people are finding, like they're hearing that there's people playing MCP and stuff like that in their store, but they're not really signing up for leagues, I would definitely give it a shot and see if you can get people who would be more interested if it's like, if there would be kind of promised, I guess you could say, to kind of ease into it rather than just like, oh, round 1, Longshanks put you into our best player, and if the TO doesn't decide like that's a bad idea and, fix it on their own, like that can open up some feel bad moments. And I would even try to like steer people. Like I would go into Longshanks and I'd be like, all right, first round, I kind of want them to play this person because they would have a good fun game and they wouldn't try to roll them over.
Yeah.
And
I think like second round too becomes super important because like say you win against someone equal skill level and then you get paired, really high up, and then you're like, oh shit.
Exactly. So, so I would definitely, even if people don't have a big enough scene for three different tiers, even if you just have two, I think it might be worth even just to kind of like help grow things. And then one thing I promised our players is that for our single day events, the first round, they are guaranteed to not play somebody in their own tier. So they'll kind of force people to like play new people and things like that. So I'm hoping that that's going to continue.
Yeah, because also the like I know from what I've heard from newer players too, like just like reactions, no deep conversations, but some newer players will be like, "Oh, a tournament," that's
another thing.
League's much more casual, or it has that feeling at least.
Yeah, that's why I want to start calling my my single day things more events than calling them tournaments. Because as soon as new players hear the T word, they just it's like they get worried and they think that they're going to embarrass themselves and it's not going to be worth it and like all this stuff, and they just I don't know if they're just feeling nervous.
40K PTSD maybe.
It entirely could be part of it. But yeah, so I'm just trying out new things, and the reception seems to be really good. I wanted to start everything yesterday, and I literally had somebody being like, "Oh, I just heard about this. Can I still get in?" And I'm like, "Okay, all right. Let me just add person number 23, like last minute." So, but that's
so cool. Yeah. I don't have. I'll briefly mention since I played one game too. That Toad is really annoying on when he's low on HP. Especially he has this is nothing kind of to do with him being on 1 HP, but in as Death, he has like a surprisingly pretty punchy attack or two. He took out Mephisto, actually, who we'll be talking about this episode. Spoiler alert, but
that was a crime.
Yeah, I know. Well, I also misplayed him, to be fair, so there you go. But anyways, kind of moving on. Nick, have you read any comics since we've been recording kind of like wildfire this past weekend? So just curious if anything's changed since I've spoke to you like 2 days ago.
Read all 5 issues of These Savage Shores by Ram V.
So it has changed.
It has.
Who is that? Like, explain some of these authors for those who don't know.
So Ram V is the most recent thing he's been doing. I think he's doing the Detective Comics run, but I'd have to check to know.
So this isn't the Transformers guy?
This isn't the Transformers guy. This is just another guy. I don't know a lot of his stuff. He wrote a Swamp Thing run that's on my backlog to read, and I'm fairly certain he's writing Detective Comics, but without looking up, I wouldn't know for sure.
Okay.
But these 5 issues were part of the trade paperback that just came out. And it's about vampires, and it takes place in India, so it was pretty interesting.
Oh, cool. That's very unique. It sounds like...
during 1776 time
sorry.
frame. So it was
I'm so sorry.
No,
I was like, all right, Brian.
I thought of it as you said it, so I just blurted it.
Okay. Oh, that's a cool timeline, though. So around American independence?
Yep.
Very cool. Brian, any comics?
No, sadly. I though I do want to catch back up with the Devil's Reign storyline that was done for Daredevil not too long. Well, I shouldn't say not too long ago. It's been like 5 years or so.
Oh, is this the one you talked about on our previous episode too?
It might be. Wait, no. Actually, This was after that. This is when Kingpin becomes a mayor of New York and decides that he is going to outlaw vigilantism and kind of has like a war against the street level heroes. Like he brings in Thunderbolts and they just start going around just messing with people. And the reason why I want to go over it again is because there's rumors that the new season of the Daredevil show is going to be heavily inspired by that run.
Oh, really? That's super cool.
Yeah, it has a. I will say on a quick thing, and I hope it gets into the show because it's one of my favorite like little panels of Daredevil lore. Is there's a part where Matt is feeling very guilty. Surprise, surprise.
Wait, no way.
Yeah, I know. One of the first parts that happens is he's breaking up a liquor store robbery, and he's fighting the robbers and stuff. And one of the guys falls, hits his head on like the corner of the sidewalk, and ends up dying. So Daredevil's wanted for manslaughter and all this other stuff, and that's kind of the event that kicks off the whole thing. And so Matt's having this whole kind of crisis about like, should I be doing this? Am I, causing more problems that I'm solving, and so on and so forth. And he's still doing the thing where he's staying up late at night, just hearing the city of New York and everything that's going on with it. So he sits in the middle of his living room and is just kind of like focusing out, listening for crimes and things around the city. And all night he's calling 911, leaving anonymous tips of like every crime that he's hearing and everything else. And I'm just like, that's why I like this guy. Like, yeah. It's just,
that kind of dives into some like definitely up the show's alley. Like that's some real deep, like almost PTSD in some form.
He was just literally sitting cross-legged in the middle of his living room on his phone, just leaving anonymous tips the whole night. And I was like, it's not like, hero punches, villain and face cool, but like I was like,
hero does what he has to while he's really anxious about his state.
Exactly. Yeah. And then they got into a weird thing where because of Civil War, they made like this is getting super weird, but super deep into it as far as comic stuff. But Nick might be able to back me up on this. But apparently during Civil War, they allowed superheroes to be judges, or to have their superhero persona be separate from their secret identity as far as being a witness. And Matt used that justification that for the manslaughter charge, only Daredevil should be charged. And only Daredevil should be sent to jail.
I'll have to reread Civil War. That's interesting.
Yeah, but like they took the precedent of them being witnesses as their superhero persona as a justification for not, revealing himself as Matt Murdock. And he literally gets sent to jail as Daredevil. And he's like in the orange jumpsuit with his little, his little mask and cowl on and everything else. And then, that's when and then it starts getting weird when, Null does his whole symbiote war and everything else. Blah, blah, blah. But anyways.
Yeah, that's cool. What's that called? Can you just repeat the title of that run?
Devil's Reign. It's REIGN.
Cool. Yeah. Well, that's very cool. That would be an excellent TV adaptation. I know Nick and I have talked quite a bit about how we already love how they did Born Again in that show. Yeah. And that's an amazing, for those who don't know Daredevil too well, that's a good place to start, I think. And it comes in kind of a graphic novel form these days too. So
yeah.
Cool. I haven't read anything, so, moving on. I've read a lot about shoulder anatomy, but, besides that. So in terms of events, we have Standoff coming up November 16th through 17th. We have said that. You probably heard that a lot recently. So for our listeners, that's up in Portland, Maine. Room blocks are available. You can win a ticket to Brian's event, which is Everwinter, January 3rd.
3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Yeah. 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Cool. And that's up in Boston. I think room blocks are available for that too.
Yes, they should be.
Cool. Awesome. So yeah, I think we can just kind of like glaze over that since they've heard that every episode for the past 3 or 4 months. So moving on, kind of, and Nick, you can Nick was a little worried because he hasn't had too much experience with Mephisto. Granted, none of us have, I would say, like on the table at least, too much. But that being said, you can kind of guide us, Nick. Pop in, if you have questions too.
Yeah,
man.
definitely.
Yeah. So you can introduce the topic, even though I kind of spoiled it by accident.
All right. Well, so today we're just gonna go over Mephisto, the new character. When is he dropping? Like the 8th or
November
something
8th.
like that?
Yep.
Yeah.
So he's coming out relatively soon, right behind the monsters. And I know, Brian, you're really excited about him, and this is kind of why this topic came up and why we're doing it, is because you're excited about him, and Steven's really excited about him in the
In one
possibility of
context, though, so I'm not as
using
excited.
him in New Mutants for use. I am not entirely sure why you're super excited about him, Brian. I didn't really get all the down low on that before the episode, but he's definitely an interesting looking character. So why don't we jump in, and why don't you guys tell us why you're excited about him?
My main thing is I love if I can, and kind of the mood is there. I like kind of like teasing my opponent with things, and kind of like not necessarily tricking them, but suggesting them to do things, and then
Like
it falls
Girl?
apart on them. Well, no, not that. Like for example, in one of my last games that I had, where I was playing against an Apocalypse player, I talked to my opponent, and I was like, "Oh man, if you just do this and this, if you just flip these 2 meteors, you're totally going to win." And then he took it, and then he rolled skulls on both of his meteors, giving himself the last 2 points of damage that he needed to get KO'd, and I just couldn't stop laughing. I just thought it was entirely hilarious.
And the old bait and switch, eh?
So the fact that there's going to be a character who, I can bring any other character I want, considering I own everything in this game, like it'll give me a reason to use them all. And there's tactics cards where I can literally do that, and I can like try to manipulate people the entire time, but in a fun way and not like a jerk toxic way.
Yeah.
And it's like justified by the affiliation I'm playing. Like, sign me up. And plus, he just seems very cool and a lot of fun. Anyway,
Yeah.
so.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, we're excited. We've never done an episode on one character before, so this is kind of new. I mean, granted, it's like a whole affiliation as well, but it's kind of a new... Oh, you know what? I take that back. We did a whole episode on Dormammu.
That's fair.
Yeah. Never mind. All right. Yeah. So you're talking specifically about his tactics cards, but that's cool.
Well, I mean, even just in general, like the fact that he can get 3 attacks off a turn.
Granted, like, one only does 1 damage usually, but
yeah, but still, like
yeah, I guess briefly. So I'll go over very briefly. I mean, I guess I would say like if excitement is the penultimate form of his release for us emotionally, mine is like a little less than that, but I think so. For those who don't know, you probably do know because we talked about it when Brian was on last. I've been pretty much straight running New Mutants. I'm about, 16 reps in, still pretty low for the affiliation, but they're coming together slowly. And I think one of the pieces that have been slowly coming together is like having this 5 threat for my 17, 18, 19, 20 sometimes, who kind of replaces some of the 4 threats I've been playing around with. But long story short, Mephisto, when I first read his ability about the teleporting someone to make them a bodyguard within 3, he kind of already fits into the leadership for New Mutants in that context. And so, granted, you're not going to want to, teleport magic to bodyguard for, well, you know what? Sometimes you do, but most of the time you don't want to teleport magic. There's also this weird thing you can do with sacrifice now, with New Mutants. You could teleport someone up, and then I think you can sack from that attack, the bodyguard attack, back into Mephisto. So it's this weird. I think you can do that. Yeah, I don't see why not. Which just dawned on me that that's a really interesting combo. But I'll have to read the phrasing. But anyways, he has this like teleporting thing within 3, so you're already bundled up within 3 with New Mutants, anyways. So that was my first. That was just the initial thought. We'll dive more into the context of that later because I've had at least one game with him now, and it's becoming apparent he actually might be a good pick for them. But anyway, so Brian or Nick, I don't actually know that much about Mephisto. Does Daredevil date his daughter, or is that Satan or the devil in one run? Daredevil ends up marrying someone's daughter who's affiliated with Hell.
I have no idea.
Okay, well, I'll have to double check on that.
Yeah. So
not Daredevil. Sorry, Deadpool.
Oh, I could see him doing something like that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. My knowledge of Mephisto is I'm pretty sure that's where all your Ghost Riders get their power from. I think. I think he's the one they make the deal with, but I could be wrong. I'm not a huge Ghost Rider reader, so I don't know for sure. But
I think Mephisto is the one who sorts out all the Ghost Riders. Okay.
Is there like a prominent comic, maybe?
I couldn't tell you.
You know what? We'll Google it on the episode live from live on one.
I'm already in there. I mean, he's had his own specific comic runs.
Yeah, I do know that.
But yeah, I think he is tied pretty heavily with Ghost Rider. But
yeah, that's what I thought.
And it looks like he's had a long time in the comics because when you go to his Marvel wiki, it starts off saying origin, and then the second entry is Garden of Eden.
So I think the limited knowledge I know about Mephisto, I'm pretty sure he's supposed to be Satan. Which
makes sense for
Garden of Eden.
A Satan?
In Marvel, I don't think so. I think it is Mephisto.
I don't think in Marvel, no.
Okay.
So the limited Mephisto I know is I'm pretty sure he is the devil, Satan himself. Yep.
Okay. So we all don't know that much. So that's a place where we can all read.
Yep.
Yeah. So Deadpool does like end up with his daughter or save someone who is captured by her or something. I remember him being prominent in one of the Deadpool runs I loved. But anyways, so that's kind of him. He's the devil, and his cards definitely reflect that.
Yeah.
And so I guess since we're doing this on one character, we should definitely just kind of talk about what he does.
Yeah. So let's break down his card here a little bit. Why not?
Yeah. So we've got, in general stats, he's a 5 threat with a medium move on a medium-sized base, which is not slow. He's size 3, which I just noticed, which is pretty decent in terms of not being pushed by everything. It's not a size 4, where then you're kind of ignoring a lot of the spider people's pushes. But he's got 3, 4, 4 defense, 3 physical, 4 energy, 4 mystic, and he's got 7 health on both sides. His card doesn't change from side to side. So those are kind of his base stats. Not bad for a 5 threat. Not the best 5 threat I've ever seen defensively, but not the worst. Not Namor. I'm just kidding. And then we've got some interesting stuff the moment we start reading his attacks.
Yes.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Everything's fine.
Yeah. So none of his attacks, I should mention this too before we even begin. None of his attacks are gain power after damage is dealt or equal to the damage dealt. So none of them work that way. So power gain's already this interesting thing. And maybe even before the attacks, we should just talk a little bit about his Devil's Contract.
The Devil's Deal tokens.
Yeah, Demonic Contract.
We should definitely touch on that, I think, first, because a lot of his abilities revolve around that.
Yeah.
And one of his tactics cards.
Yeah. So let's start there.
Yeah, so initially, well, briefly, too, to get this out of the way, he's immune to Incinerate and Poison, which Incinerate does come up a lot as well. So he can have 3 Devil's Deal tokens at any time. And he starts with 1. So actually, off the bat, turn 1, he's gaining 2 power, because the second part of Demonic Contract is during the power phase, he gains a power for each Devil's Deal token he has. So he has a token, he gets an extra power, plus the additional one you get in the power phase for every character.
So, how does he go about getting more of those tokens? Because it says he can also have
attacks.
A max. You want to start the attacks? Let's do it.
He has max 3 on his card, I should specify. Because there are ways to gain more. Later on, we'll dive into that. But, okay, I'll go over... Yeah, I guess if you want me to go over the attacks, since I just use them a lot. And I got really confused, actually. I'll tell you the truth. It's really weird having a character who doesn't have a builder.
Yeah.
Very strange.
I kept being gainer versus a builder.
Yeah, and I kept adding power and then being like, oh shit. And then I was playing on TTS, but I was like adding power. I was like, oh fuck. He doesn't actually gain power here. So his first attack, he has energy, mystic energy. So his first attack is a range 3, 6 dice attack. He gains 1 power, and it's Wild Incinerate. Nothing crazy special. It's called Hellfire Lash. And I'll say the names because it does become important, because he starts referencing attacks, and you have to remember which one's which. His second attack is range 2, called Infernal Bargain. This is kind of the big one. This is how you gain more tokens when you use them. So Infernal Bargain's range 2, 6 dice. If it was resolved, if it dealt damage, he gains a Devil's Deal token. There's a couple characters who have something like this. I can't remember who they are. Shuri, I think, has something like this.
Oh yeah, where she only does 1 damage instead. Also, Troublemaker off a Black Cat. Only does
okay. I forget about that
fixed
one.
Amount, yeah.
Cool. So, if it deals damage, it only deals 1. And then his last attack, which is where things get spicy, almost maybe broken in some context. I won't call it broken. Very powerful in some context. He's got a range 4 beam with 6 dice, costs 5 power to use. And then for each Devil's Deal token this character has, add 1 die to its attack rolls for this attack. So he doesn't have to spend them, and they just add dice. And then after each attack is resolved, each character gains the Incinerate special condition. So let's just pause there. So thoughts about that initially? I know like the full card is where you start to dive into, the insanity, but his basic attacks. What do you think, Brian?
I think they're fine. I don't necessarily see any sort of major issues. If some people might think, oh, that Infernal Bargain is, it's only range 2. How's it going to get the board and don't worry, we'll get there.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
It'll be fine. But yeah, like Termination Clause is really good. Especially, you can make that up to a beam 4 11 dice attack, which could be insane. But no, I think his attacks are fine. But I think a lot of his stuff is more down below in his superpowers. I think that's
so. We've got 3 superpowers, I guess we'll allude to. The first one costs 1 power, and this is choose an enemy character within 3. You do spend a Devil's Deal token, and this is kind of like just ping damage, but it's cooler. If you do, you get to roll 5 dice for each wild. They lose a power, and he gains 1, and then for each hit, they also suffer damage. And each character can only be affected this once per round. So you can do this in kind of a 3-range bubble too, to each of your opponent's characters. I will just say after my 1 game with him, it is very good when you have the Devil's Deal tokens, but you almost have to use it very carefully because you don't want to lose too many of those or have none. That's when he starts to kind of get a little bit on the back end. That's just a finesse thing you have to use, rep over rep with him, I think.
Yeah, this is definitely something where this is, and it's kind of ironic for the name of the podcast, but this is going to be my 11-on-1 superpower. It's like, we let this guy on one over here. Okay, cool.
Boom, 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 boom.
Just trying to get those last minute dazes or KOs. The one thing that is kind of unfortunate with this, I mean, it can only be like 1 damage sometimes, so people like Kingpin and Battery Bill or Thanos could just shrug it off for nothing.
It's very true.
That's one of the other things about Infernal Bargain as well, is that because it only deals the 1 damage, they could just reduce it down to 0, and then he doesn't gain the Devil's Deal token.
So you have to be very careful about target priority with some of these things as well.
So it's not just the damage mitigation; it's the power, dropping it down by 1, because you could just make Infernal Bargain do nothing. So
yeah, and then it really fucks him on Infernal Bargain. Most of all. So make sure you're not doing that into someone who can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we move on to his really interesting power, I think, which is 2 power costs. How can I be of service? You choose an enemy character within 3 and place him within 1 of it. Then he gets a free Infernal Bargain attack, which again allows you to gain Devil's Deal tokens. That's probably something you'll use all the time and keep in mind, because he starts the game with 1. He can do that turn 1, so you can move M and then hit someone within 3. Teleport within 1 of them, so also has objective play, and then again be up to like 2 potentially. Well, you get the free attack, so you might, if you just move once, do that. You might have another action to hit someone with something else. So, that can be pretty spicy.
I like that there's a lot of synergy with it with Termination Clause, because where you are placing within 1, you get to pick the perfect spot where that beam 4 can be, and you're already Infernal Bargaining for an extra Devil's Deal token for the additional die on the attack.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, if you have the power to do it, he can make up some really, really dangerous beams, and then he could walk away afterwards.
Yep.
Or
teleport in the safety of a New Mutant who was just attacked.
or he could do that. Yeah, it's all right. He's everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And so his last power is interesting. I'm not even personally sure how to use this. I got to think a little harder about it. But when he's targeted by an attack, he can use his superpower. I mean, obviously, like the obvious thing is like, protect him. I'll just say that first. Hold on, let me read the power. When this character is targeted by an attack, he can spend a Devil's Deal token and a power. It does cost 1 power as well. And if you do, you can choose an allied character within 3, and you place him within 1 of him, of Mephisto, and then they become the target, regardless of range or line of sight. So it's bodyguard. Bodyguard with anybody, realistically. So I think Bill's a really good piece for that particular power. Or any kind of defensive dude.
My thought is Venom. Couldn't you drag Venom up and he could so many snacks off of it?
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
You can do Venom. I didn't drop Venom from my New Mutants list with him for a reason. You're spoiling it, Nick.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just kidding. No, absolutely. Venom's becoming more and more interesting with these, new releases. All of a sudden, Jin, we had a battle report recently, and Jin and I were talking about it after, and I'll mention this public because I'm sure Jin doesn't care, but we were like, Venom is like, with these factions that can teleport him into the position he needs to be, he's actually like a really interesting piece that we haven't seen in so long. And I kind of love it.
Yeah.
The nice thing is that you're choosing when to bring him up, so you can make sure that he's not, getting dusted by energy attacks or anything like that, because as soon as a character's targeted, they have to choose the attack beforehand. So
you're like, oh, cool.
You can dictate. You're like, oh, great, it's a 5-die punch, perfect. And then you can bring him in, and then Venom can start doing his stuff. But
yeah, that's a really good point as well, because it kind of not only solves the movement issue with Venom that's been an issue, but also the him getting stomped on by energy attacks. So it's a very good point. But anyways, sorry, I love Venom, and so does Steven. So
Venom's great.
Yeah.
But
Cool. So that's kind of his card. So all, kind of as a summary, he's got 3 attacks. They all kind of pair with his superpowers in certain ways to either gain Devil's Deal tokens or deal a lot of damage with a beam. But they all kind of revolve around this Devil's Deal mechanic, along with teleporting either a friendly person to protect him or teleporting himself to kind of set himself up for a beam or to make an infernal bargain and gain more, Devil's Deal tokens. So,
yeah.
Is that a good summary, or was that like shit?
Seemed good to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
You
got anything to add?
I mean, not until we get into like other squad ideas.
Oh, yeah.
The roster that I'm going to be testing out uses a lot of the Meet My Associate kind of superpower to really
Meet My Associate. Oh, okay, cool.
To put some interesting stuff in play that I think a lot of people will be like, God damn it. Oh.
I'm actually really interested in hearing that, because neither Nick nor I have built a mono affiliation with him. So
no, we haven't.
That'll be really cool. So I guess briefly before we get to that, let's just go over his cards, and we'll do the affiliation one last to bleed into your list idea, Brian.
Sure. Yep.
So the first one is that I'll do because I think if you splash him, I think this is a really good one for him no matter what. So it's called Up the Ante. When another allied character, this is a lot of words. Let me just take a breather here. So Mephisto can play this card when a different allied character deals damage to an enemy character. The enemy character's controlling player, so your opponent, chooses one of the following. He can choose that the attack does not deal damage, and instead the enemy character... Oh, man, this is already confusing me. All right, so basically you have a guy, you have Mephisto, and we'll just use an example. We'll use Venom because we just talked about him. So Venom deals damage to an enemy character. Mephisto can play the card. It's a reactive card, team tactics card. And then your opponent has to... So Venom attacked, I don't know, Spider-Woman. So Spider-Woman's controlling player can say that the attack does not deal damage, but Spider-Woman loses that much power. And then, in addition, for the remainder of the game, Mephisto... This is option 1. Mephisto Lord of Temptation may have up to 5 Devil's Deals tokens instead of the normal 3, and he gains 2 immediately. Or option 2 that Spider-Woman's player can choose is after the attack is resolved, Mephisto, Lord of Temptation, can remove an activated token from himself. And if he does not, you can return this card to available team tactic card instead of discarding it. And this card may be played again this game. So that's like a lose-lose scenario. Can someone else summarize that? I'm pretty sure I just did a shit job. Hey everyone, apologies. You may have noticed the brief static. So in a typical maybe Mephisto fashion, the recording that we did a few days ago cut Brian out for the latter part of the entire episode, and he was speaking quite a bit.
Scandals.
So you may notice Nick is not here due to scheduling conflicts in this second half of the episode, if you will. Nick will not be with us anymore. So Brian just kind of holding down the fort. But without further ado, we were in the middle of explaining some of the tactics cards. So we'll start off talking about Brand New Day. We just wrapped up the other one, which is called Up the Ante, which is the one I think is probably splashable, most splashable, if you're taking him unaffiliated.
Yeah, I mean, they're all unaffiliated, so they all work really well.
Yeah, I just mean when you're unaffiliated, you have a certain amount of slots you can realistically give to like one character, and I think that's the one that I would definitely be like, okay, this is coming if Mephisto's here.
Well, Brand New Day does have his own merits.
That's true. So that one,
which we'll just get into now.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you daze or KO an enemy character within 3 of Mephisto, he gets to play the card. And the opposing player gets to choose if the enemy character is not dazed or KO'd, they immediately remove 1 damage, they remove all their special conditions, and remove up to 1 activated token from itself. If anyone asks, like, why does it say up to 1? Why doesn't it just say 1? Well, because then it can work on a character that doesn't have an activated token. Otherwise, if it just said remove 1, then you'd have this weird question of like, well, I don't have an activated token. So I don't know. It's just weird.
I've already seen some stuff online about this, so.
Yeah. And then additionally, Mephisto gains 2 Devil's Deal tokens and removes an activated token from any allied character. So that can be, I mean, depending on who you have in your roster and everything else, that could be exceptionally good. But
does
if
that
they
include him, do you think?
Yeah, from any allied character. Yeah, it doesn't say any other allied character.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking that. Yeah.
Yeah, and if they refuse, if they're like, no, let them get dazed or KO'd, Mephisto removes all damage and special conditions, and then he gains 3 power. So late game, this could probably be very, very useful.
Yeah, and the obvious choice is to take the second option, in my opinion, as like someone playing into him. I'd rather have him 3 power than have someone get to go again, I think.
Well, and completely healed. But
yeah. Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That could be a bummer. It's contextual, I think.
Yeah, I mean, between this and Up the Ante, I think Up the Ante just has more regular uses.
Yeah.
You know, one thing that I did note for Up the Ante, if we can kind of go back a little quick, is if your opponent refuses the deal, as it were, if Mephisto doesn't have an activated token, it just says that this becomes available again instead of discarding it. So if Mephisto doesn't have an activated token, you can keep offering this up in the same round over and over and over and over and over again.
That's so annoying.
Mm-hmm.
I love it, though.
Sorry. I just got a
no
cough
worries.
here.
Yeah, something's going around the Northeast, so...
No, I just ate dinner and there was something.
Oh, okay.
So, unlike Eye in the Sky, where you have to wait until the cleanup phase, Up the Ante you don't.
Okay.
That was something that took me a game or two to figure out. And then we have Embrace the Inferno. This one I have not been interested in taking purely because of the fact of just when you're playing like an affiliated Mephisto list, tactics cards are so premium and scarce.
Yeah.
And there's a couple little other subtle things. But so this is played during the power phase. Mephisto costs 4 power, and all other characters within 3 of Mephisto gain the Incinerate special condition. Now, it's not all enemy characters. It's even allies. Yep. So that can also, you can be like, wait a minute, why would I want to do this? Well, this round, when an allied character with the Incinerate special condition is attacking, may re-roll all of its attack dice. And then if it does, and the attack deals damage, it removes the Incinerate special condition after the attack is resolved. The one key thing about this, to me, that kind of gives me a little pause, is it's re-roll all, not re-roll any.
Yep.
So...
And in our previous recording, I think we made a point of saying, like, if you roll really well, you kind of... well, it says may, but then you stay with Incinerate, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. So if you don't deal damage, you still stay incinerated. So that's kind of a bummer.
Well, it also says if it does, so you have to reroll and deal damage.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of a bummer.
Oh, that's even worse.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. So, yeah, I don't think we're going to be getting a lot of Embracing Infernos.
I think, yeah, I'd love to try it. Problem is again, it's one of those cards that, like, kind of takes even if it makes your 10, it's really situational on the map. Probably an E map if you're playing on demons already, maybe.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know.
Yeah. So it's I don't know. It's fun. The artwork is amazing.
Yeah, it's very cool.
So there is always, there's always that. So, and then lastly, we have the leadership card, Devil's Reckoning. So the affiliation becomes Legions of the Lost, or Legion of the Lost, I should say. So during the cleanup phase, your opponent chooses one non-dazed character they control without the Incinerate special condition or immunity to Incinerate. The chosen character gains 1 power and the Incinerate special condition. Additionally, during the cleanup phase, choose 2 characters you control. Chosen characters gain 1 power. Now, there is a timing thing with this that can make this leadership either A, a little awkward, or B, not as controllable as you might think. Mm-hmm. So in the cleanup phase, this takes place before characters are dazed. So being that when you're dazed, you can't be affected by special rules. So your own characters being dazed, you may not really have a choice on who you assign power for yourself. And also for the opponent, like let's say you have an amazing turn and there's like one person who's not dazed. Well, obviously they're going to be the one who gets the Incinerate special condition. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, you can't have the magical rainbow land of somebody flipping and then giving Incinerate on them to go and KO them. Right. So that is not an option.
Yeah. It's okay. I think we've talked before about how it's one of those situations where maybe you just don't take it.
Yep.
There are certain scenarios where you're going to want a different card other than the leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I found it useful, but I haven't found it amazing. And I don't really get bummed out by that because not all leaderships need to be the same as far as power level goes, because there's way more aspects to a character than just a leadership. But yeah, I mean, they're especially on, if your opponent just happens to have the right people and they just tech for a whole bunch of, immune to Incinerate characters, if you think that they may be doing that, just be like, all right, well, I'm not bringing the leadership.
Or even maybe it might not be worth it potentially on a more spread out map. Like if you're going kind of one-on-one with characters, because I don't know, or weaker characters, someone's really wide. Incinerate probably doesn't matter as much to them because they have a lot of activations to kind of shake or move or whatever. I'm noticing if I go 5 or 6 wide with new mutants, some of these special conditions don't really matter to me as much.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
So that is the leadership and all the tactics cards.
Yes. And we finally did it. We recorded it.
We did it. Hooray. And hopefully it stays. Yes. I hope it increases.
I'm checking the thing constantly, trust me.
and one of the nice things is Brand New Day, Embrace the Inferno, and Up the Ante are all unaffiliated. Mm-hmm. So if you're thinking of splashing Mephisto, you can take any one of them and it'll be fun.
And they're all free.
They're all free.
Costs,
hooray. So. Yeah.
Cool. So, in our own kind of episode outline, our next step is to kind of walk through your current list, and you can give us sort of the what you're taking, the missions you're taking, why you're taking certain characters, and then some of your experience with them.
Yeah. So, being that Mephisto has a wonderful beam, and immune to Incinerate and everything else. I like to
a 5 costing beam though. We want to point out.
Yes,
this
it does cost 5. Do not let anyone from upstate New York who may stream games tell you it's free. Costs 5.
It'd be super broken if it was free.
Absolutely, it'd be crazy. So, anyways, I honestly like to start with Crises first and then build my roster up from there. So I just took the 2 E's, so Demons and Gamma Wave. I did take Deadly Meteors. To me, I still find you kind of get that very similar game plan, but it's slightly diagonal, and the extra power that Mephisto can put out can be helpful if you have characters that need to secure more than 1 point at a time.
Yep. So I like to, I guess this is kind of just a caveat too, or while we're talking about it, because I think, at least in my mind, Meteors and Sword work very similarly to me to Ease, but with like special sort of, they have like a special or sort of different game plan. So if you're a team that kind of like generates power, I do think like pretty easily, I do think Sword and Meteors are options depending on how you're going to deploy. To Sword, you're kind of going right down the middle. Meteors, you might like come off to a side almost.
Yeah. I don't know. I dig Meteors just because I don't like getting pushed just for I'm a big proponent of pushes during missions. That's fair. That's fair. But yeah, and the additional damage that you may take if you roll a skull when you're doing the interact, like that could be annoying. But anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So on to the.
I like those secures though for you. I think.
Yeah. Oh right. Yes.
Yeah.
So one of the extracts that I took, Scrolls Infiltrate World Leadership.
Scrolls Infiltrate, and what was the last one?
Well, no, that was just the one.
Oh.
Scrolls Infiltrate World Leadership. That's
you read the whole thing. I always hear it as Scrolls.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
So I have Scrolls, Hammers, and Paranoia.
Okay, makes sense.
One thing that astute people will notice is that they are all 4 extracts apiece. The reason why I did that is that theoretically, if I'm picking my extracts, that means that I didn't win priority. So if I didn't win priority, that means that I want to have an equal amount of extracts as my opponent on kind of like a consistent basis. So if I'm doing something where it's like 3 wide or 5 or like 3 extracts or 5 or something like that, if my opponent has a safe extract play, that's immediately putting me behind on victory points.
Yeah.
Because there's a good chance that they will just have more than me. So now I got to run and I got to chase and I got to do more. I got to kind of extend myself a bit more than if it was just, hey, we have 2 apiece. Now we can just play kind of more of a fair game.
Yeah. This is something, so I know at some point we're going to talk about leveling up your game. And this actually just kind of happened for me recently with New Mutants because I was losing priority and I was like, oh, wait a minute. All my extracts need to be 4.
Yeah, exactly. Or at least even.
Yeah, because I'm a secure team. So you don't want them to outpace you if you lose priority.
Yeah, and that's one of the big traps that can happen with stuff like Web Warriors, where they have plenty of safe grabs. Like they don't if a good enough opponent that if they realize that they're already up on the objective game, they have 0 reason to go into you.
Yep. Run away, baby.
they can just win on time. So it's up to, in that instance, it's up to you as the player with the least amount of extracts to go and get them. And I want to minimize that as much as possible. So,
do you have a chase piece in your list while we're on this kind of topic?
I do. We'll get in there. She's interesting. But so we have Mephisto, Lord of Temptation. I have 3 different backline characters to help out with, the backline E, Ds, things like that, that can kind of support up front. They do vastly different things, and it's really kind of depending on threat level. So my 2 threat spot is Wong. unsurprisingly.
Mm-hmm.
My three threat spot is Armand Zola. One thing with Mephisto, there's, with the leadership and everything else, there's no way to get rerolls. So rerolls, especially when you have Incinerate, you want to kind of maximize damage as much as you can.
Yep.
So him being able to provide rerolls, I think, is great. If people would say, oh, but what about Shuri? I have an answer for that. So the reason why I pick Armand Zola over Shuri is because of the fact that his basic attack, that range for, I think it's 5 dice.
4 dice.
Yeah. Oh, it's 4 dice.
Yeah.
But he isn't capped out at only doing 1 damage. So
with
the amount of Incinerate that you can send out, I want to be able to make sure that I'm maximizing that as much as possible.
Yeah. Plus, you also are handing out with him as a kind of bonus. You could hand out Shock.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So he's kind of a nice little piece. One of the other problems that Shuri can run into is that if there's a character that can dive into her, she can't help herself out. She just kind of sits there and is like, please don't hit me hard. At least with his rerolls, he can use them himself.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is pretty good. So that's why he's in there. And then lastly, the 4th threat slot is Silver Sable. I've only used her once, but I have found her very handy. Shock Collar is great. Out of activation movement is always key. The Want My Help, Pay Up can be great for giving additional dice to your fellow allies who are utilizing, the rest of that, those Incinerates and everything else to kind of help push that damage a little bit through. So yeah, I've been finding Silver Sable to be.
You take her card?
Pretty
Sable
handy.
International?
I did once. It did work. It did go through. She did take out an Apocalypse fueled Archangel. So it did give me the VP. Ultimately, it didn't really help out too much as I got completely tabled. But that's okay. It was my first game with this roster ever. So, and then the rest of the team is all there to kind of help out with Meet My Associate for kind of some interesting reasons. I will just get into the 3 threats and then we'll go up from there. So the 3 threats are Shocker and the Blob. Shocker is just there because if you're getting hit with a physical or energy attack, he can add 2 dice to himself. So he can go up to 6 physical defense and 5 energy defense. And he just naturally, if the enemy's within 2, just lowers the attack die. So he can kind of skew the math really hard for potentially him surviving an attack that...
And I see a good pairing with him and Zola, handing out Shock and then Shocker coming up.
Exactly. Yeah. So you got the double attack dice debuff there.
Mm-hmm.
The Blob is just hilarious. So
I haven't seen him in a while, to be honest. I was actually reading his card right now. I was like, oh wow,
he's so good. So one of the other great things about, I don't know if I mentioned this already, it's been days, is Meet My Associate is when you have an attack where you can pick which type it is. So, physical, energy, or defense, you're kind of locked into that before you are picking the target because you do it when you choose the attack. So yes, Blob has a 4/2/2, which is very sad, but physical attacks is the most, easily the most widely available attack in the game.
Yeah.
So you could still put him in, and then if he were to suffer damage, you can play ha 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 that tickles. You give yourself a damage reduction, and then you can push the character away. So it can just set somebody up who's oh, I'm gonna walk up, I'm gonna take this point. We got this attack that we're gonna push Mephisto off of. Blob comes teleporting up. He can't get pushed or thrown as a result of attacks and special rules, and then he just pushes you back off where you wanted to be.
Yeah.
So
I kind of also like that he, from the teleport with positioning, if you're playing into some of the more mission playing lists who have a lot of push and a lot of throws, you can put him in a really advantageous position for scoring. You're secure.
Yeah. And then one of the other things is his.
Oh, and he can't be pushed or thrown. That should have been mentioned.
Well, from attack special rules.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you throw him as a result of a superpower, he can still get thrown.
Okay.
But
a lot of web stuff is wild attack triggers.
Yeah, right, exactly. All the impact webbing and stuff like that. Miles's throw, none of those will work against him. And Thunderous Splash is hilarious. So it's if you want like a cheap character that can dive into the enemy. So it's range 3, and before damage is dealt, you place within one of the target character. So it just teleports over, and then he can push everybody away off of a point, which can be so good.
Yeah. And he's also kind of tanky for 3 threat, 12 health, on both sides.
Absolutely. We have a local player who would do very, very well with him in Kingpin Criminal Syndicate, where, he can count 2 and Thunderous. Like, if he has enough power, him doing 2 Thunderous Splashes is just, it just clears off the entire table. Yeah. And then the security team can just walk up and just score all the points. So the Blob is, I think he's a lot of fun. And plus, he has a terrain throw, which we will get into in a little bit.
Size 3. Oof.
Yeah.
It's pretty good, actually.
Sorry. So,
no worries.
My 4 threat kind of meet my associate characters. Again, we're continuing with the theme of kind of defensive tricks that will skew things. So we have Shang-Chi. So him counting blanks with his 4-3-4 defenses, always great.
Yeah.
Especially if you have Armin Zola behind him, who's giving him rerolls.
Yeah. Plus potentially 2 extra dice on his 10,000 shapes, which is no slouch.
Yeah, it could be so good. And if for some reason he doesn't take damage, you can then throw them with Dragon Chases its tail.
Mm-hmm.
So, it can really catch people off where, they're expecting to do one thing and then they get thrown.
And another piece too that I'm kind of, so I played Defenders for a while and was having a lot of success with them. One of the main pieces obviously now is Shang-Chi. Yeah. And what I always love is because he's kind of weak. He doesn't, he doesn't really live too long. And I don't think in certain respects you expect him to. But kind of when he's dazed and you have access to Wild Goose Leaves the Flock, it can take one of your opponent's pieces just out of position, kind of mid to late game, which can be super important for mission play.
Yeah, and it ignores size. Doesn't matter. Like Apocalypse, you're getting moved. Apocalypse, Sentinels, you're getting moved. Like it doesn't matter.
Immortal Hulk too. Yeah. He's really good against.
Yeah. So there is some displacement play with him. The other 4 threat that I have is the Black Widow. She can kind of do very similar things with Shang-Chi. So they might, in further testing, they might prove to be a bit redundant, but we'll see. Where her counting blanks for martial artist, calculated risk, where she can re-roll any of her defense dice, including skulls. It's only against physical and mystic attacks. But if you're up against, like a really strong physical attack, and you can combo martial artist with calculated risk, it can be so great. She's also one of my preferred extract carriers for All That Matters Is the Mission. Mm-hmm. So you get to control where the extract drops rather than your opponent. She moves long, which is always good, especially after, potentially getting teleported up 3. If it's kind of in the mid board, she could then move long either once, or maybe even twice, and can score or, just cause havoc all over the map. I really, really dig her. Deadly Origins is a lot of fun.
Steven's big on her.
Yeah, she's very, very cool. And my 2 5 threats. I am not afraid to have 3 5 threats in my roster. Captain Marvel.
You're more brave than I.
I know. But I take Captain Marvel Cosmic Avenger. She is very much kind of a glass cannon. Primarily against physical attacks. But if you really need to, block an energy or mystic with her enhanced energy absorption, I've always found it very helpful. Just for that reverse pierce, getting more power. And when she goes binary form, oh, does she mess people up? A lot of people don't realize that she has a charge for free. Like she's got a size 4 terrain and character throw for only 2 power.
Her trigger on Warbird, yeah. I'm noticing
Warbird is amazing.
No size there.
So she can wreck people's day. And I don't know. I've been having a lot of fun with her. She's not kind of the be all end all kind of piece, but she is kind of one of those that, like, if I need to dive bomb into something, and she, freshly just got on her binary form, which she's one of those characters that really enjoys that extra power from the leadership and little bits here and there. She can go binary pretty quickly and just start causing problems. And, with a lot of this list, there isn't really a heavy hitter. So she's kind of the heaviest hitter that I have in this list.
Well, Mephisto's kind of a heavy hitter, but I see what you mean.
He can be, yeah. But I don't know. I've wanted to find a place for her for the longest time. I really like the sculpt. I think the character itself is really interesting. And I don't know. I'm just gonna keep her in.
Really cool too. Yeah. The sculpt, yeah.
I think I'm just gonna keep her in. Maybe I might Mephisto theme her paint job a bit. Kind of like a fallen Captain Marvel.
Oh, cool.
But who knows? Because she's probably going to be only used in this roster. But I don't know. I just find her really fun. She could end up getting replaced by somebody else, but
so the only I guess a small caveat too that's kind of interesting. So I have a really weird list called my Transformers list.
Okay,
and she is kind of a staple in that.
Well, yeah, I should hope so.
Yeah, her and it's Avengers affiliated, so I take Sam. But
wait a minute. Well, wait a minute. Hold on.
Yeah.
You have an Avengers list that's all about Transforms.
Yes.
And you do not lead it with Hulkbuster.
He's in it, but he's a 6, and I like to go wide. So
shame on you, sir. Shame on you.
I mean, to be honest, there's not very many Transformers, so all that's the ones true. You can think of are in it. So
yeah, exactly. So our last spot and the hilarious spot, the splash that I never thought I would use until I did, and I found it so funny, is Ultron Metal Tyrant. So he is my primary, well, I shouldn't say he. The Ultron drones are my first go-to meet my associate target. Because, they may not, they're not going to survive a hit, and they're not supposed to. basically they're just there as like little hand grenades that just get thrown at the enemy. So like they have to hit them. And because you get to place them near Mephisto, when they explode and they deal damage to everybody within 2, you can kind of like try to maximize and get every little bit out of there. And if you're playing on an EMAP, which we're trying to do, if you get three characters in there, you've just immediately paid for Ultron's kinetic field generator to then make more Ultron drones. And so I've had instances where, I had a game where we were playing Montesi formula, and he went into the Ultron drones, and he whiffed one attack. The second attack, he was going into them, and they survived on one. And so I was like, oh man, these Ultron drones, they're in a really great spot. Unfortunately, they still only have 1 damage left. And I'm like, oh wait, Ultron's now going to read the Montesi book. And I made sure that the Ultron drones were in the beam. So after I did a bunch of damage with the Montesi book, it did the last damage onto the Ultron drones. So then they exploded. And then they ended up like dazing a character that they had no right dazing. It just, I don't know. I find it very, very fun.
Absolutely. So I'm also thinking, I know we were talking pre-second recording about 4 threats. So like Nick Fury will just, obviously he might be a good choice. We won't have to get into why, but because I actually think another cool piece is Sandman for you.
Sandman potentially, I found him with how much all of the different things that Mephisto can do. Like I sometimes will kind of joke that like Hulk is basically just a flowchart, where it's like, is he in combat? Yes, smash things. Is he not in combat? Gamma leap to smash things. And it's just like this very like simplified play pattern. Mephisto is like, it's just insane, all of the different things that he can do. And I find that like Sandman can do a lot of that stuff too. And I think Sandman needing his grunts around to make him effective is a big part of what he does, and kind of sacrificing them and him having to, basically damage himself to be able to get more, instead of just like destroying a size 1 piece of terrain.
Yeah, that's true. The cheapness is appealing. Yeah, on an EMAP, I would take him probably, but
yeah, the cheapness is good. Also, I mean, the other thing with Nick Fury, like we were talking about on the side of it, he's only a 4 threat. The shield agents, if you want to have them pick up stuff, they can do so. Actually, wait. I'm sorry, this is terrible radio right now, but I do want to check something. So, oh no, it wouldn't work the way they thought it was, because apparently they can't pick up. They can't immediately contest or pick up a.
They can when they're respawned, I think.
The extract. There's a character that will pick up an extract as soon as they're created.
I thought that was Fury's grunts.
I thought it was too.
It might be on his card.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So
call in the cavalry.
Yeah, that's where they can immediately grab one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think he could help out. I think they could also be a good solid choice as well, especially with calling the cavalry being pretty cheap and Mephisto kind of giving out targeted extra power.
Yeah. The only problem there is like Nick Fury himself is not particularly survivable.
Yeah. Yep. So, and the other problem with grunts is they could be exploited by your opponent for like extra victory points or this
reactions,
and that. Right. So all this. all this other stuff. But I have just found this is much more of a me having fun than just a tactical thing. But the idea of just, I want to go in and I want to attack Mephisto, and then now I'm attacking all these Ultron drones, and they're just blowing up everywhere. And then Ultron's just standing in the background, just making more, and they're just like, "Here you go, boss." It just, I don't know. It gives me the giggles, and I find it hilarious.
And that's what part of the reason we play this game,
Exactly. So. Yeah, this roster is definitely. I think it's still a work in progress, but I like where it is right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I kind of have an idea where everyone is there. Everyone kind of has a role for what I want to do. I don't feel like when
you want to just highlight some of the tactics cards you're taking. You don't have to run through them all.
That's the next one. Oh yeah. I was like getting in a wrap-up mode. Yeah. So obviously we have Devil's Reckoning up the ante. I did take Brand New Day. I haven't actually taken it in my 5 yet, but I'm still bringing it just to kind of like tempt myself to actually use it. Mm-hmm. My restricted cards are Brace for Impact, which I think one of the weaknesses for Mephisto is the fact that he's only 3 physical defense. So he's just asking to get terrain thrown at him.
Mm-hmm. Or throwing himself to take you outside of 3 of, your game plan.
Yeah, exactly. So Brace for Impact, I have in there. Patch Up, just because my secures are very, kind of clumped up together. So Patch Up can really, really be handy. In addition to everything being bunched up, Joint Effort is there, which actually works on grunts, which is kind of interesting. So you could easily, well, not easily, but you could reliably get an extra 4 dice on attacks when making things. Mephisto's got a wonderful beam. Joint Effort works on all of the beam attacks, so it can be a little crazy. Recalibration Matrix, just it's Recalibration Matrix. It's wonderful. I did take Survival just in case if I lose priority, and I have a feeling that going to be getting dive bombed by something, especially where Mephisto has such a large target on him.
Yeah.
If things go poorly and it's kind of looking like he's going to get potentially, hard focused, Survival is in there.
Yeah, I think it's important. Survival is a really good card when you're like, say you have one piece you really need to live. Mm-hmm. For example, I think, obviously I'm playing New Mutants like a ton, but Magic's a really good target for this, so you don't lose your leadership.
Yeah.
So that's like kind of use case scenarios is like when you really need this thing to survive. And I think Mephisto in this context is probably super important not to like die one round.
Yep.
So absolutely.
Yeah. So it's pretty great. And the last one we have is Vertical Assistance, because more wacky, weird movement on things that people aren't expecting can be very, very handy. It is only a short advance, but it can negate a lot of pushes in the game that people were like, oh, okay, good, this secure is now mine. And she could just kind of, move long, Vertical Assistance, put them back on the point, and then she could, either then also get on that point. So, you could be winning a secure 2-1 when they thought that they would kind of have it, or at least tie. So I like I said, out of activation movement, I find really, really strong.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's only 2 power to use, but like I was saying, the problem that playing Mephisto in affiliation is, 3 or 4 tactics cards may as well be all stapled together.
Yeah.
And just kind of like stapled together.
Boy, do I feel that.
Paper clipped to his character card.
More like they should come with a stone version where it just comes out when you put them on the table.
Exactly. It can be a lot of kind of edge case stuff. So the team tactics card is the part where I find it really, really rough. And I know that a lot of people don't like the tactics card leaderships, which I can, at first glance, I can kind of understand, but I think that's kind of the price that you pay for the fact that I think nearly all of those leaderships, with the exception of New Mutants, and also the Invader Shield one, like that's what you get for being able to pick from the entire roster of the game.
Yeah. Well, so, I think New Mutants are still kind of doing that, but at least right now. Maybe not later, but but yeah, absolutely. So in terms of I was going to say closing thoughts. I will say, I know at the beginning of this episode, I had, or when we recorded previously, I had a lot more juice to talk about New Mutants. I do have it in our episode. I will say briefly, just due to kind of time constraints too, that New Mutants, definitely, he's an option. He's a really good option. I think Mephisto can easily slide into their roster. Maybe on a different episode or a new recap of New Mutants. I'll talk about that more, but I think for today, we'll just mention that.
Nice.
He's an option. But I guess in general, kind of any closing thoughts? Like, what are you loving most about this kind of experiment? And,
I personally really enjoy the kind of up the ante teasing with your opponent. Kind of weirdly. I don't want to say like role playing the character, but kind of like getting into the character of, offering terrible deals to your opponent, and then eventually they're just going to have to take one. Like I had a game where Mephisto had just about taken out Psylocke, who was armed with, I don't know, famine or one of those horsemen, and I kept like, hey, do you want to? You can save him. You only got to lose power. What's the big deal? Blah, blah. And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay, all right, fair enough. So I just kept offering it, and then finally he was like, so Mephisto had the activated token, and then there was something where somebody else finished the job on Psylocke, and I was like, hey, I could offer it again, and he's like, no, I don't want to do it. I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yes, I don't want to do it. I'm like, okay, cool. Mephisto removes his activated token, and he's like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, this was the whole thing. And he's like, all right, well, I mean, yeah, I guess so. And I'm like, okay, cool. So then when Mephisto activated again, that's when he KO'd Colossus. So kind of like he ended up doing a lot of work, but unfortunately,
awesome.
Unfortunately, Apocalypse just kind of ran through my entire team. But that's okay. That's kind of what Apocalypse can do.
Yeah.
And it was my first game.
How you learn too, yeah.
Yeah. So, but it was between stuff like that and just throwing Ultron drones into people's faces and just having them blow up and just be like, oh my God, this is so obnoxious. Like, it just makes me giggle. Like, I just find it hilarious.
Yeah, absolutely. So in kind of like closing too, thank you so much for coming on, Brian. I really appreciate it.
You are welcome.
And so do the other guys, even though they're well, Nick was here.
Nick was here, yes.
But that recording is lost to the hellscape, I guess, if you will.
I think what it was is, kind of almost like in a weird twist of fate, Mephisto realized, hey, Brian hadn't played any games when we're doing this, so we're going to cut him off. So he cursed the recording.
Yes, or so my internet.
Get some games in.
It's more the issue. But...
So they can get some games in. and then now we can talk about stuff.
Yeah, it's a blessing in disguise. A blessing as a curse, which is totally Mephisto fashion.
Absolutely. So very on brand.
Yes. So, yeah, cool. So thank everyone for listening so much. We really appreciate it. Standoff is coming up soon in Portland, Maine, November 16th through 17th. And then after that, we have January 3rd through 5th.
Yep.
For Everwinter. And Brian will be TOing that. So if you want to experience his Mephisto list, he is coming. Oh, sorry, you're on air with me. You are coming to Standoff.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. I already got a place to stay. I got everything else. Could be buying my ticket shortly.
Nice.
I'll be fully locked in.
And I'll be there running Mephisto and New Mutants. So
we need to get paired.
Oh, I really hope not.
We gotta have
the teleporting.
We're just gonna be offering each other up so many deals. It's gonna be ridiculous. I'll get to talk to Steve. We'll make those out.
Force the pairing. So yeah, those 2 tournaments are coming up. You can email us at aliveon1@gmail.com. Our handle on Instagram is @aliveon1. You can also join our Discord, which will be in the episode description. And please also, I forgot to say this in our first take, so you know what? This is great. Please like and review the podcast on whatever podcast platform, primarily Apple or Spotify, that you listen to. It really helps go a long way in giving us more exposure as a channel. So that being said, thank you again so much, Brian. And as always, oh shit, I forgot what I say at the end.
Godspeed, Spider-Man.
Godspeed, Spider-Man. It's been a long week. Thank you, Brian. Oh, well, Brian, you want to officially close this out here?
With what?
The Godspeed, Spider-Man?
No.
Okay, well, all right. Godspeed, Spider-Man. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.